Hey, lovers of budget cars and bikes, and welcome back to yet another car review car review and thoughts for 2019. As you probably know from other videos and other times of years, if you've been a subscriber for a while, I tend to do more cars in the summer than I do bikes, purely because bikes get bloody expensive in the summer months, understandably so. Premium prices, all the rest of it, so I tend to kind of buy the bikes in the winter and spring, and then, if I can sell them in the summer, great stuff kind of thing, and then I'll buy some more in the winter. Projects, stuff that needs doing up. You've seen my videos by now, you know what I'm talking about. But cars, obviously, there's no real kind of like season per se with cars, so I tend to, do more in the summer with cars than I do in the winter with bikes, I guess. Anyway, if that makes any sense, this is something I picked up literally about 2 weeks ago. It was one of those things, and I cannot emphasize enough how if you're scrolling through Gumtree, eBay, Marketplace on Facebook, or your local groups for where you live, that kind of stuff, buy and sell and bring all your crap, that kind of stuff. If you're looking through there and you see a picture of a steering wheel or a bonnet or a back of a car and it's very nondescript, check it out, because sometimes people just don't really know what they're doing when it comes to posting stuff on these kind of groups and on Gumtree and eBay, and they just don't think about the kind of intro picture, as it were, and this is a prime example. Now, the intro picture on this literally had a picture of the steering wheel. That was it. That's all you could see was the steering wheel. Now, I tend to open up those adverts and have a look and see what it is, because I know that probably 99% of people won't, and ergo, this nice little car can just literally be bypassed by most people, and I might be able to find it and get a nice little bargain, And that's pretty much what happened here. This is a 2012, so probably the newest car actually I've ever had. It's a 2012 Peugeot 208 Active, in this kind of purpley blue. I mean, the logbook says it's blue. I would say more purple, but hey ho. But it's a great little car, and as I said, when I opened up the advert, as it were, looking at the steering wheel, I looked at this and thought, well, blimey, that's a nice looking car. It's a 1.2 petrol, because I don't particularly like diesels. It's a 1.2 petrol, so incredibly economical. I was returning 58 miles to the gallon, I think, when I went for a little cruise the other day, and it's an incredibly comfortable car and very, very modern. It doesn't have that orange dials that some of the older cars have, because I really, really hate all that fucking orange nastiness on the dials on the dash, and this has got that lovely ice white. All the little alarms, like leaving the door open or leaving the keys in or not putting your seatbelt on, they've got that kind of iPhone bing bong thing going on, so it just makes you feel like you're in a more modern car. But this is 7-8 years old now, but to me this is, as I said, the newest car I've ever had, so it's kind of a novelty for me, really. And even though it's just the 1.2 Active, it's got a nice few little extras. I mean, the wheels, I love the wheels on this. They're completely fucked because this came from a young lady, and she said in her own admission, she kept hitting curbs. It's as simple as that. She has put 2 new front tyres on, though, as you can see, which was very generous of her. Now, if I was going to keep this car, I haven't kept it for myself because it's a 1.2. I wanted to try it out. I've never had a Peugeot apart from a 205 GTI. Oh, actually, no, I tell a lie. I had that 207 GTI for a while as well, didn't I? But I didn't like that. So this is one of the few Peugeots, shall we say, that I've actually had then. And I wanted to try this modern one out, and it seemed like a good deal at the time. If I was going to keep this, I'd paint those calipers. I'd do something with them. Maybe not red, because it's only a 1.2, but I might silver amorite them, because it's like an hour to do all 4, and it'll just tidy things up, because as you can see, it's a little bit rusty and moody down there. There's a 11 month MOT on this as well, with no advisory, so that was kind of cool as well. It was done in April. Front spots, which is always an indication that it's probably a better than the base model kind of thing. Had a little kind of funky front bumper as well. Beautiful lights. They're just halogen bulbs, which surprised me, I have to say. I could change those out for some LEDs, I guess, again, if I was going to keep it. But one of the lessons I've learned is, and I think I've mentioned it many times, if you're not going to keep it, don't waste your money. Let somebody else waste their money on it, because at the end of the day, you're just putting it on for somebody else, and if you're not going to get that money back, then just don't bother. I love this honeycomb grille thing going on here as well. It's just a handsome looking car from the front. It looks much more than some of its parts in that respect. And there's the other tyre down there, as you can see, brand new. And little things like the chrome accents on here, on the mirrors as well. I'm surprised to not see indicators in the mirrors, because a lot of modern cars have got that. So I was kind of surprised not to see that on here. Now I'll walk you around this side because there is a bit of a problem with this car, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I love the sweeping lines that go up the doors there and up over the back arches. And as I said, I really do like these wheels. I think, for a 1.2 active, you'd get a decent set of bloody wheels with this. If I was to spend 200 quid refurbing these, I would probably get them done in a nice anthracite colour, because one of my neighbours has actually got the exact same car, but the GTI, with anthracite wheels on it. Same wheels, but just in anthracite, and it looks really, really awesome. So if I was going to do that, then I would, as in if I was going to refurb them, I'd do that. Drum brakes at the back as well. Very odd on a modern car. Cheap, cost saving, I guess. The problem with that, of course, is you can't really make that look much better. I guess you could just get a copper brush on there, on that back drum, and paint it silver amorite, but I tend to think that looks a bit shitty, to be quite honest. Now, here's the rub with this car. As you can see, it's not in terrible nick. The sides don't have any dents, nothing like that. It's not been in an accident per se. It does have the odd mark, car park marks like here, and it's also got a couple of bird poo marks just here, and just one there as well, I think. A couple of stone chips, nothing to worry about there. Impossible colour to touch up. I mean, you can see somebody's obviously got one of these touch-up pens, and they tried to do it, and you can see the difference in colour is just night and day. So I wouldn't even bother trying to touch up the colour on there. There's a couple of odd little bits as well, like these black scuff marks here. I'm 99% sure they'll just polish out, and I've got the polisher to do that, so maybe I will. What else? Lovely rear lights as well, the way they sweep round like so. I just think it's a handsome looking car. Now, this is a bit of a bone of contention. Now, bear in mind, this car was advertised at £2,000, and it's done 64,000 miles, and it's a 2012 one owner car. So I just thought, well, bloody hell, why wouldn't you? £2,000. I wondered why. Now, this back bumper, yes, it's got a couple of little scuffs on the back there, as you can see. Yes, it's got a bit of lacquer peel there. And then we get round to this side, and it gets a little bit worse, as you can see, just round there. Then it gets a little bit worse, and then it's on this back quarter panel here, which is a pisser. Now, getting this little dent out here, not a problem. They'll just get in behind there. I mean, I could almost pull that out with my hand. And there's a little one here as well, which you can just get up inside there. There's a wheel kind of cover there, and then you can just whip that out and push that out, and then somebody would have to effectively sand this back, fill it with polyfiller, or car filler, I suppose, in that respect, and then sand it back, and then respray this entire panel. I've had it done before. Now, I'm not quite sure how good a job they could do, because normally what they do is they tape off on this line here, and then they paint that entire panel. But because this doesn't actually have a line per se, it's a rounded line. I'm not sure. I haven't taken it to a body shop yet to ask them how much it was going to cost, could they colour match it, all that kind of stuff, because it kind of freaks me out. I don't know what I've got myself into here. There's a bit of damage on there as well, but that, again, I mean, because it's not broken per se, I could glue that back in there, and as you can see, that almost looks like there's nothing wrong with it now just by doing that. Super glue, get that back on there. I polished it a little bit, but as you can see, it's starting to kind of spider around here and here. And it's a real shame, because, again, if we stand back and look at this car, down the sides and everything else, it's a lovely looking car. It's, it's probably, as I said, the newest car I've ever had, the most modern, it's got the most toys. We'll have a look inside in a minute, I'll explain all that to you, but it's just this rear right driver's side quarter there, that whole kind of area here. I did look into buying a new bumper off eBay. Now, they're around about 100 to 150 quid, depending on condition. And, you could just whip it off, whip a new bumper on. That would solve all of this, all the way up until here. And then all you've got to do is sort that out. And it's literally a bolt-on, bolt-off job. And if I was going to keep it and try and ask more money for it, that's what I do. But, I mean, for £2,000, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to do the calipers. I'm going to do a couple of other bits. I'm going to spend a bit of money on it. And I'm going to use it for a couple of months, and I'm going to sell it, because I'm not going to keep a 1.2. It's not quick enough for me, really, to be honest. But it is a lovely car, and I wanted to share it with you guys to show you what you can get for a couple of grand. I mean, as I said, it's a 2012 with 64,000 miles, 1.2, incredibly economical, and £20 a year road tax. 20 quid a year for a petrol. It's amazing. And the insurance was incredibly cheap as well, being a 1.2. Very economical on petrol, as I've said. What else in the respect of value for money? well, it's £2,000, you know, for a 64,000 mile 1.2 Peugeot, which looks lovely in my opinion. It's got a cam chain as well, which is always a bonus, so nothing to worry about there. I mean, it wouldn't be anything to worry about anyway, because it's done 64,000 miles and it's only, what, 7 years old. So it's not really anything to worry about too much yet anyway. Oddly enough, one of the service records on there said cam belt change due at 112,000 miles, or 10 or 12 years I think it was, which is weird because it's got a cam chain, but hey ho. It's got a couple of other little bits and bobs as well, which could be polished out. You know, you get one of those valeter guys that comes around and they just polish all that out, you know. But again, I mean, I've been quoted £100 for a guy to come and polish the entire car, get rid of the bird poo marks, probably get rid of those corner marks there, try to do something with the back bumper, but he's not going to be able to do much with that rear arch, is he? I mean, it's not awful, as you can see. I mean, it's not like it's damaged. That dent would pop out, and then all you're really missing is this tiny little square of paint there, where it's just obviously been whacked and chipped off, which is a real shame, as I said. And some key marks here again, all that will polish out. Let's have a look at the inside. Nice place to be. That's a really, really nice little sporty number there. Let me just put this door in a second, because as usual there's a bloody car coming. So bear with me a second while I deal with these farmers. Alright, let's see him out of the way. As I said, nice place to be. I mean, bear in mind this is a 1.2 active, so it's not the top of the range kind of thing. This is one of the base models in that respect. If I didn't know better, I would think that this car had been a lease car or a courtesy car or even a hire car, just purely because the amount of fading on the seat here and this kind of fading on the seat here. Again, I could get the guy that I'm thinking about getting to polish up the car. I could get him to do the interior, a really, really good valet, just to get rid of all these little bits of makeup and crap. Because there was a young girl that sold this, and I think she had sun lotion on, and you know, it comes off on the doors here, on the plastics and stuff, you know. But it can all be taken off. It's not like it's damaged per se. Decent seats, but I think if they had better bolsters, that would be nice, because as you go around corners in this, you do flop about a bit. It's a bit willowy, wallowy. Oh, let's have a look inside here. When you go around corners, which is a shame. Now, I'm going to have to get the keys. Bear with me a sec. Aircon as well, which is ice cold, but it did smell a bit. It's cleared itself, but when I first turned it on, I think it just hadn't been used in a very, very long time. And it stank, quite frankly. There is a way to fix that, of course. You get your hand steam cleaner, you know, the thing you use in your kitchen, and you just get the nozzle and you blast it all in here, and that gets rid of the smell, apparently. Piano black, just like the Corsa was. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bitch to keep clean, because it shows up every little mark with your finger, which is a bit of a bugger. But we'll switch this on. Steering wheel controls as well, which are a little bit weird. Everything in here control-wise seems to have a bit of a delay in it. You turn up this and it takes a second maybe to actually register that you're trying to turn it up. So I don't know if that's a software thing, but lovely set of dials there. I mean, I love the way it does this. Well, there it goes. I didn't think it was going to do it then. But obviously, as you can see, you've got your speedo right in the middle, and then you've got the speedo to the right-hand side as well, and your RPMs on the left. Lots and lots of stuff going on there. There's the info, what do you call it? Multimedia system, we'll call that there. This is all touchscreen as well, so you can get in here. There's loads of stuff going on. You can press all this kind of stuff. I really haven't been through this, if I'm honest. I don't know what it all does, but there is a lot of stuff going on. There's communication, there's settings which do the vehicle. You can activate the rear wiper to go on when you're in reverse. I think it's got welcome home lighting, diagnostics. There's so much going on, and again, this is the base model, the 1.2 active, you know, and you get all this in here as well with the steering wheel controls, cruise control just underneath there. Now this steering wheel, let me turn this ignition off for a second. This steering wheel is a pain in the arse. Oh, see, now it's going to bing bong at me because I've left the key in. There you go. The steering wheel's a bit of a pain in the arse. If you've seen any of the other reviews on this car, you'll know that they say that the steering wheel has been made lower so you can look over the top of it to see these dials. Yeah, I don't know if you can see from that angle there, but it's a tiny, tiny steering wheel, and the steering is incredibly light. If you've ever driven a Fiat, the Punto or the Panda, and I think most of those have got a town driving button somewhere around here, and you press that to park, and it makes the steering incredibly easy. This has that all the time. you don't get a lot of feedback through the steering wheel because of that. It's incredibly easy to drive around town, which I guess is what it was designed for. But it's very, very, very light, just generally driving around. I don't like that. I don't get any feedback from the wheel, and that really puts me off the car, if I'm honest, as does only 5-speed. But I guess it's a 1.2, so I can't slag it off too much in that respect. Why would you need 6 gears with a 1.2? I guess. I don't know. But the steering wheel is probably the only thing I don't like about this car is the steering. As I said, you don't get a lot of feedback. So that's the inside anyway. So it's cloth with this kind of plastic piano black, which is all right, you know. The back, as usual, doesn't really look like it's been sat in. It's a 5-seater jobby. I thought that was a rip then, but I think actually that does belong in there somewhere. So I'll just tuck that away. So there we go. It had a shitload of smellies as well in a typical girl car. It had all these bloody smelly things hanging up, about 7 or 8 of them actually, to be fair. What else? I'll open up the bonnet for you, which again is a bit of an oddity in itself, because you've actually got to open the passenger door from here to get into here to open it up, which is a bit weird to my mind. And again, those seats, if they had just a bit more bolster, I'd like that. But I guess they've got to give you another option on the higher end versions, I guess, like the GTIs and stuff. So there it is, the 1.2 petrol Peugeot lump. Not much to say, is there really? I'll probably degrease this and polish it up and make it look a little bit prettier, because, you know, it doesn't take 10 minutes and I think it adds to the overall appeal of the car. I won't bother starting it up because if you have seen any other videos, you'll know what they sound like. You know, it's just a little 3-cylinder 1.2 petrol engine. You know, there's nothing really much to shout about. But it is chain driven. Somebody's obviously spilt a shitload of oil putting it in there as well. I don't think it's leaking out. She did say she was a mechanical fitter, this young lady, and she'd done her own service on it, her own oil change and filter change on it, which is fair shout. But apart from that, it actually has a full service history up until the middle of last year anyway, so, you know, that's all been stamped in the book. So that's nice for me in the resale value. Now, if I got this cheap at a couple of grand, I think, personally, she wanted a bigger car, so she just needed to get rid of it. Her boyfriend had a couple of kids, so she just wanted to get rid of it and get a 5-door. I think if I polish this up, spend a bit of money, get a new bumper, this car, I mean, book price on this car is closer to 3.5 grand, believe it or not. So I think if I spend somewhere between 250 and 500 quid making this look a lot better, I could quite easily ask 3 grand for it, you know, on the premise that I would probably take 27, something like that. So, you know, it's not going to be a car that's going to make me a fortune. I won't lose any money on it with a bit of luck, and I'll drive it around and experience it for the next couple of months, see what I think of it. I mean, you know me, eventually I'll probably do all these little things that I say, oh, don't bother doing. I'll probably paint the calipers, I'll probably change the bulbs, because, you know, I get bored, you know, and I just like, if I sell a car, I like to sell it in the nicest condition I can. You know, I'm not a second-hand car dealer. I'm not just going to sell you a pile of crap that, you know, I've had for 4 hours and make 500 quid on it. It's not the way I do things, you know, and I do need to have a car, and this is the only one I've got at the moment. We'll open up the boot as well if it'll let me. There we go, because the one thing that did piss me off was this parcel shelf. Look at the state of that. Now, bear in mind, this is a 2012, so it was 7 years old. That parcel shelf, it looks like someone's been scrambling on their bike over it or something. You know? It doesn't look very new, does it, really? That's a bit odd. Whether that's bad manufacturing process or bad design or what, but, you know, I don't know. If I could find another one, I might put that in, because as I said, I like to sell the best car I can. It does have a proper spare wheel and toolbox in there as well, toolkit rather, as opposed to one of those little compressors and shit. Anyway, that's it. The 2012 Peugeot 208 Active Petrol 1.2. I like it. I think it's a lovely little car. It looks so much more than the sum of its parts, as I said. You know, I mean, that front end there, it looks sexy, doesn't it? You know, it looks more than just the base 1.2 model. And from every angle at the front, I think it's just a handsome little car. And cheap, as I said, 20 quid a year road tax, cheap on petrol, cheap on insurance, cheap on parts, because I imagine a lot of the parts are interchangeable between the other Peugeot models. Would I buy an uprated one? Would I buy a GTI one of these? I don't know. I'd have to drive one, because if the steering's the same as it is on this, then no, I wouldn't, because as I said, I get no feedback from it, and that's one of the things that really lets it down in my mind. But I like the car. The colour is subjective, you know, you either love it or loathe it. You know, a lot of people would say, oh my God, purple, but it's classed as blue. So you make your own mind up with that. Purpley blue, perhaps? I don't know. Anyway, any questions, drop it in the comments section. Any kind of statements, if you've got one of these and you want to just chime in with anything, then feel free to do so. And if you haven't subscribed, then do so, because I try to get a video out every 4 weeks or so. It's now the middle of July, so this probably won't come to you until October, I wouldn't think, because I've got a couple of other bike videos to do. So as I said, if you haven't subscribed, then subscribe, and there'll be more content coming up every month, hopefully. And thanks for watching. And as I said, any comments, drop it in the comments section below. All right, guys, take care now.